Hello Facebook Live. It's Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com. Hopefully the sound is working this time around. Thank you for everyone who's just kind of done the little wave and said, hey, the sound isn't on. So actually, I might even check on my own iPad. So I had a very interesting, well, I've had a very interesting month, let's say. Well, no, 6 weeks, let's get it right. So it's been a very interesting kind of 6 weeks in terms of kind of what's been going on with my my physicality and my health and my well-being, and having hit the big 50. I wouldn't have said it was a myth, but it wasn't something I'd ever really thought about in terms of hormonal changes, things that are happening for you. And the person who's just joined, just put a yes in the comments if you can hear me this time. I think it should be a-okay now. But I've just done a little update of the settings because I've been playing around trying to get it to work for something else. It's been a very interesting time, to say the least. So I decided today I would go and visit my doctor. It's not something I do very often. Those of you who know of some of my previous health issues, brilliant, thank you. But some of you who know of my previous health issues will know why that is. However, I've had the experience. I've just been to see my doctor after some crazy stuff was going on, and she did my blood pressure, and her words were, she looked at the screen, she went, beautiful blood pressure. I was like, cool. And as I was walking home, it reminded me of an experience that I had about 2.5 years ago at the same surgery, different doctor, a guy I've never seen before. I actually haven't seen him since either. So I go in, he's got my files, he looked at my files and looked at me and looked a bit, okay. He then puts the thing on for the blood pressure. He pumps away, does the blood pressure. And then he went, oh, wow. Now, when a doctor says, oh, wow, it can mean, oh, wow, we need to get you to A&E, because that's happened to me before, although I didn't go to A&E. Or it can be, oh, wow, that's amazing. And years before that, I was with a guy in Harley Street, and I think his words were, oh, my God. And he looked at my charts, my thyroid charts, my blood test charts, and he says, your levels are so low that you should be in a coma. How are you even functioning? And his words to me after that were, you should be in a museum in a glass case, because he couldn't understand what was going on with what he was seeing on the chart. And there's me in the room bouncing up and down full of energy. So that was one of my experiences, almost like of the oh wow moment. So when the doctor had previously a couple of years ago said to me, oh wow, I was like, okay, what's going on? And he looked back at my chart, and then he looked at me, and then he looked in the corner. I presume he looked at my date of birth, and he looked at me again, and he said, oh, that's very unusual. And I said, what's that? He says, well, that a woman of, and he paused and went, of your age would have her blood pressure improving and getting so much better. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, I didn't get into it with him because I didn't know him. It'll be too much of a long conversation. But what I had been doing in the run up to that, that's about the time I started running the monthly Angel Tarot and Huna teleseminars, where every single month, I would do an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of Huna, because every single person that was on the call, I would do an angel tarot card reading for them. And then depending on what had come up in the reading or what they had submitted, I would then do some Huna clearing for them. And of course, me, the deliverer of the Huna, it has to run through some channel, so that kind of runs through me. And I was like, I remember just thinking when I started doing those calls, I was like, I wonder what impact and what effect this is having on my body. And that then coincided with seeing this guy and him sort of going, oh wow, and being quite shocked and astounded. But that was 2.5 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. So to go back today, with everything that I have observed about my body, and I mean observed it in a physical sense, and also what I felt was going on inside. And for the first, it started around about the 20th of May. I decided for the month of May, because of course I'm aware of this thing called menopause. I think there's premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, freaking menopause, as I'd call it. I'm aware of it. I know of it. I'm not crazy. I live in the world, but I'd never really thought about it. Never looked into it. Never done any research. Never given it any thought. And to be honest with you, I would have thought that was like 10 years away for me. Clearly not. So with everything that had been going on, I thought for the first couple of weeks, just let it roll. Just let it do what it wants to do, because I just want to see how this thing plays out. I want to, get a handle on how it shows up for me. Then I got a little bit fed up of that and a bit naffed off. So I then decided this month that I would step up, because I'm not running those monthly calls anymore. I haven't run them for the last 6 months. I just thought I'd take a break with everything that I was doing. And I thought, given that I'm not doing something with the HUNA on a really regular basis, I thought I'm now going to step up the HUNA for myself and just see what impact that has. And one of the reasons I went to my doctor today is because with one of my past, I say it past, I know it's a pre-existing thing, but I still talk about it in the past tense. But one of the things that I have got, and anyone who's got a medical background will know it's a little bit crazy when I tell you the number, but my resting heart rate can be anything up to 220 beats a minute, which is a lot. So with that in mind, with everything I had kind of felt and seen, I recognized some of the things I was going through from what I'd been through 20 or so years ago. I thought, I'm just going to go and double check and just see what was going on. And I was kind of hoping that what I had been doing was keeping things on a lovely, even keel. And so for her to sort of go beautiful blood pressure, I'm like, yes, HUNA strikes again, which is just lovely. And it's really perfect timing, because this week I'd been sat just kind of, number one, looking at some of the testimonials I've had, and also just recounting some of the things I've heard from clients about the way that HUNA has impacted them. So this is really brilliant timing. Some of you, I don't know, some of you watching, you might have been at the 2 years ago, I ran the Magic and Gratitude workshop. I also ran the Money Breakthrough workshop. I can't remember. I think she was on the Magic and Gratitude, but I ran one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. So she could have been at one or both of them, but she was there. And I did what I do with my photo reading group, which is I just do a couple of minutes of HUNA for each person. And so we're talking about HUNA. It wasn't a HUNA workshop, but somebody had asked me a question about it. And she said, oh, could you just give me a bit for my ankle, please? I didn't know anything about it. All she said is her ankle. So I just do, I'm sort of having a conversation anyway with the room. So while I'm talking, I'm just doing the HUNA and waving my hands about a bit. I think I might have done the bells and whistles version, but both of them work equally well. And the bells and whistles version is the where you draw the symbol on the breath and you blah blah blah. So I just did a minute or two, didn't give it any thought. So we have a break, I put music on, I eat cakes. She goes out the room, she comes back in the room and she went, oh God. And so I was like, what, are you all right, is everything okay? And she says, I'm not in pain. I went, right. And she says, I've been in constant pain. I think it was something like 5 or 6 years. So she says, for me to get up from my desk, and you guys have been to the juries in, you walk up the corridor. She says, for me to get up from my desk and walk to the bathroom, it's been painful. To walk back has been painful every single time. And she says, I've just walked to the bathroom, didn't even give it a second thought. And now I've just walked back and I've just realized I'm not in pain. And all I did was maximum, I'd say about 2 minutes. So I already know that HUNA is incredible. I had the thing where I ripped my tendons back in 2015. I was in the middle of the ocean. I was on a Caribbean cruise for 2 weeks, so there's nothing I could do about, well, I could have gone to see a ship's doctor, I suppose. But actually, when I did hobble down there, he wasn't there. And it was going to be another 3 hours before he was on duty, unless it was a dire emergency. And I thought, I'm not calling the man out for a dire emergency, because even if you've got insurance, that gets overridden. So I'm like, I can wait. And in the 3 hours, I went back to my room and I just healed it with HUNA. And it was bad. And the pact I've made with myself was, because this was like, I think day 2 or day 3 of a 14-day cruise. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Number one, that night I was going out clubbing. I was already decided. The next day I was going on a walking tour, I think around, I don't know, where the heck were we, Antigua, whatever. No, actually I might have been the Virgin Islands. But anyway, I was going on a walking tour the next day. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I've paid all this money and come all this way. You've told me to take some time out. Here I am. And now I can't walk, because I to get back to my cabin, I crawled. I had no shame. By that point, I was just like, whoever sees me, I don't care. I crawled back to my cabin, because even just hopping, the pressure of hopping, even though I didn't have my foot on the floor, was too much. Couldn't do it. So I go back to my room. I had me, some cuss words, HUNA, and a pair of tights. And that was my arsenal. And by the end of the night, I was back on the dance floor, went to the walking tours, had the whole holiday, made some agreements with my unconscious mind. When I got back, my friend Gina picked me up from the airport, dropped me off at home. We went to lunch. She left the house. I sat on the sofa. I was like, wow, that was amazing. I got up from the sofa. The pain you could not describe. And I sat back down, I was like, what the hell? And my unconscious mind went, you said when you get home, you will phone the osteopath to double check your work. I was like, okay, noted. So I pick up the phone, I ring Steve, make the appointment, the pain went away. I go and see Steve, and he loves ankles. He specializes in ankles. That's his thing. He teaches, he's a cranial osteopath. So we do the thing. I didn't say anything at first. And he said, wow, what did you do here? So I explained, and he said, but what treatment have you done? And I laughed, and I says, why? And he says, well, because he meant, who have I seen? And so I explained to him I did the huna, and I swore a bit, and I use a pair of old tights for the night. And he laughed, and he says, well, Marilyn, he says, this is really bad. But he says, you are at the stage now where all I have to do is a final little bit of tweaking, because it's at the stage where it's like you've had 3 or 4 osteopathic treatments. And I hadn't. All I'd done was I think it was the longest huna session I've ever done on myself. It was the best part of 3 hours, because it was so painful. I couldn't put it on the floor. I couldn't put my foot on the bed. I couldn't lift it. It was just like, I can't do anything. It was just so bad. And I know it was bad because, God, I must have been in my late 20s. I did the same thing, I think, to the same ankle. And it took 6 months of physio. I still, hang on, let me just see if I've got it here. One sec. I bought this at the time. I've still got it in my office. For those of you who know, it's a wobble board. So it took 6 months of serious physio and then another year to retrain my ankle on the wobble board. That's how bad it was. And even after 2 years, I was still walking with a little bit of a limp. And I did exactly the same thing, but worse on the cruise ship. So I already knew as soon as I went over sideways, I was like, I know exactly what's going on here. It was almost like in slow motion. And so to have sorted it out in 3 hours and then did everything that I wanted to do. I was out walking every day at the beach. I was out clubbing every single night, as you can imagine, because I love music. And it was just fine. And then for Steve to go, it's like you've had 3 or 4 treatments on this already. And so, and as I was leaving, he said to me, because I said, oh, Steve, I said, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised, because I really was like, wow, that's amazing. And he says, sometimes, Marilyn, we just need to be reminded about our power, the power to heal our own bodies. And so for anyone watching, so I'm not saying you can heal every single thing. And I think the medical profession is absolutely fantastic. I know that there are times and there are instances without their intervention, many people that I know would not be here. Touch wood, I've been lucky in that even with my serious stuff, it's been good, and then I found ways to manage around it. And it's also a reminder about the power that we have. Now I know, how can I, the word is not control, but I don't know what word to use. With the stuff that I've been kind of going through, for the first 2 weeks, I just let it roll. For the past 2 weeks, I think we're the 15th of the month, aren't we? So I decided on the 1st of June, enough was enough in terms of just watching. I know that there are things that when the body wants to do them, the body's going to do them. It's not that we can control them at all. It's just like, I'm doing this now. And I'm just like, okay, because I've experienced many of the things I've been going through the past couple of weeks before in my 20s. And I know the way I describe it almost is like it just comes over you like a wave. However, what has been really nice is to have physically seen a difference in the past 2 weeks, to have felt an internal difference, but I just wanted to check that I hadn't lulled myself into a crazy false sense of security, and that there was things going on internally that I wasn't aware of. So yeah, it's been just a really nice reminder. I'm fully aware that my body will, probably have its moments where it decides to glow, as I'm going to call it. And it's like, I'll just have to roll with that. But just to kind of know the what we can do as well for ourselves is just wonderful. So I'm going to continue on with that. I'm going to let my body do what it needs to do what it wants to, because I'm guessing it's trying to also find a sense of what you might call homeostasis and balance and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get in the way of that. But as much as I can, if there are things that I can do to, how can I say, assist that and reduce the severity of that, that would be amazing. And so today was my first kind of tick in the box that the huna that I've been doing for the past 2 weeks is having an effect. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Brilliant. So yeah, it's kind of it's been interesting, and for those of you who are coming along to the Ahuna workshop next month, whereas on the photo reading, even with the photo reading workshop, if you've seen some of the quotes I've shared, I've done like 3-4 minutes with people, it's completely changed their lives, and 5-10 years later they're still reaping the benefits of that change. So we already know that works. So what we're going to be doing next month is we're going to have a whole day of this stuff. And it's not a medical workshop. I'm making no medical claims about it. I already know from the 18 years that I've been using Huna with my clients, it works in very wonderful and mysterious ways. It does what it's going to do. It will have the effect that it's going to have. And so there'll be people who, like the majority, notice miraculous things right there in the moment where the pain just disappears. And we've had that so many times on the photo reading workshop, I've pretty much lost count. Also had people with emotional issues, you know, stress, depression, chronic anxiety, confidence issues, and they have just disappeared after the 1-hour bonus session on the Friday night of the photo reading workshop. So I already know that. So it's going to be very interesting. Well, I'm going to say it's going to be interesting to see what unfolds when we've got a whole day of this stuff, because maybe you won't know. Some of you are aware that before you arrive for the photo reading workshop, I've already been in the room setting up the Huna, so that you are, how can I say, immersed in it and surrounded by it. And of course we do the bonus session, the free bonus session on the Friday night, where, you know, I do a group clearing, we do some access consciousness, and then I go around to each person individually and ask, you know, what do they want me to focus on? Do they want to fire things up? Do they want to calm things down? Do they want grounding? Do they want opening up? Do they want connection to their third eye? You know, whatever. And then I'll do, you know, a round of Huna with each person on the photo reading workshop. So kind of, you already, for those of you who've attended, you've had a tiny little taster of that and the impact it can have. And so I'm just really kind of excited now, with particularly this latest bit of news, like, yay! If I had any doubts that Huna worked, today was like, come on, woman. And I don't. It's just that thing that you know, I still thought, let me just double check with my crazy heart and all the other stuff that I've been through over the years. Just want to, you know, double check. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens next month when we have a whole day at our disposal. Even when and I think for me, I still remember, I won't say his name, actually I don't even know if he remembers. Next time I see him, I'll ask him. There was a guy, the very, very first time I did a Huna and Access Consciousness teleseminar, I didn't know who anyone was. They're just random people that booked. I don't even think I bothered to look at the list, so I had no idea who's on this thing. So I run this teleseminar. Halfway through, I opened the lines, because it was a dial-in teleseminar in those days rather than the online webinar that I've got now as well. And I opened the lines and I said, has anyone got any questions, queries or feedback? There was absolute silence. And I knew there was like 30 people on the call. So I'm like, close the line. I was like, oh crap, what's going on? So anyway, I thought, I've started now, so I'll finish. So I continue on with what I'm doing with the Huna and doing all the Huna. I put down the phone. I immediately put down the phone, pick it up straight away. I rang my friend called Gina. I said, Gina, I think I've just done a crap call, as in CRAP. She's like, Marilyn, I've never seen you do anything that's crap. What's going on? So I'm now sat at my desk with my headset on, talking to Gina, and I went, hold on a minute, and a message comes up like an email bubble, and it was from one of the guys on the teleseminar. I went, hold on a minute. I read the thing. I went, Gina, I think I've been premature. I'll call you back. I put down the phone, and he'd sent me a message saying, you said on the call that you picked up that somebody had neck and shoulder pain and down into the back. And he says, I think you were describing me. I think you were talking about me. Now, bear in mind, I have no idea who this man is at this point. And he says, and as you did the healing on that area, he said, the pain in my neck and my shoulders have just disappeared and the mobility has come back. So I read that and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Then I had another thing pop up from somebody who suffers from bulimia. And she said, I could feel the stress of it and the, how did she put it? It's like, I think she said something like the urgency of it, something like that. I could feel that dissipating during the call. And then all these messages started coming in. It was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And there was somebody on the call, on one of the later calls, because I then started running them on a regular basis. God, it's been ages since I've run one of those. She then says, Marilyn, at one point you described me and almost where I was, to the point she got up off of her sofa and she looked behind the sofa to make sure that I wasn't there in the room. That's how freaking crazy it was. And the woman who had bulimia went out shopping later on that week, sent me an email. She says, I wish you, because, you know, if you've got bulimia, you binge eat and then you bring it all back up again. So she said, I filled my trolley with my binge foods. And then she said, I'm pushing it towards the checkout. And she said, I suddenly realized I don't want it and I don't need it. So I just put it all back. So, and as far as I know, that was the end of that. So, and this was just on a teleseminar. And so, and I know, I already knew from my one-to-one clients, my breakthrough clients, because some of them are, you know, other parts of the country in terms of the UK. I've got clients as far afield as Australia, and they've had the experience that I will be thinking about them. And if I think about my clients 3 or 4 times and we're in an ongoing coaching relationship, I will often just kind of check in, because Huna is also about higher self-therapy. So I do a bit of a check-in there. And if it's okay, I'll send them some Huna. They've got no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what they're doing, but I normally try and pick a time zone where they're kind of asleep, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. And I've had clients from abroad say, did you do something this week? I remember there's one client, she drives a Porsche, or she did at the time, so I could always hear her arrive. So her Porsche pulls up, I go out with the parking voucher, hand her the voucher, she didn't even say hello. She said, what did you do last Wednesday? I was like, huh? She went, what did you do last Wednesday? I went, what do you mean? She said, did you do some Huna with me? And I went, I don't know. And I went and checked my diary, and I was like, yeah. I said, oh God, yeah, I remember now. I was at home that day, and you kept popping into my head, and I knew you were coming this week. And I thought, well, let's just, you know, do some Huna energy work with you to prepare for this week, and also whatever's going on. She said, I felt it. I was like, oh, cool. She then comes back a couple of weeks later, Porsche pulls up, hands her the voucher. She didn't say hello. She went, you didn't do anything last week, did you? I went, no, I was really busy. I was out consulting all week in London. And so clients will feel it even if they've got no idea what I'm doing when we're using it on a more intense therapeutic basis. And so it's going to be really, really interesting just to put all of that into the mix at the workshop next month, and see what unfolds, and see where we are and see what happens. So I am very excited about what we're going to do. And for the person who was asking, I haven't put the slides together yet. I won't say your name, but you know who you are. You were asking about the elementals. And the elementals is what I have been using also for the past 2 weeks for myself. So when I use the elementals, when I used to see clients here at home, when I was doing the breakthrough sessions, I would actually put the elementals into the furniture, because I know where people are going to sit. And I haven't done it for a while, actually. I don't put the elementals down for the photo reading, because the bonus session is optional and voluntary. In the 6 or so years since I added it to the photo reading workshop, I've only had one person not stay. And she came in the next day. Everybody is raving about the photo reading. Everybody is so much more relaxed, so much more open. They're starting to get it. Things are starting to fall into place. And she said, oh, I wish I'd stayed for the session yesterday. Is there any chance you can do some Huna for me? So I've had one person in all of those years not stay, and lo and behold, they look around at everyone else and go, oh God, I wish I'd stayed. But it's optional. I always give people the opportunity to leave before we start. So I don't put the elementals down for photo reading, because, you know, haven't got people's permission. But what I might do for you guys who are coming along to the Huna workshop, what I might do is actually I'm going to email you all, and I'm going to ask if it's okay to put the elementals down. And what I will do is then I'll put some of the elementals down on the seats. And they're not something you can't see them. It's energetic. However, it'll be really, and actually, that might add another level of complexity. Because what I might do, because when clients are coming, of course, when they're doing a breakthrough session, I know what we're working on. They've sent me a pre-questionnaire. I can see what the issues are. And so I will choose the elemental that fits their condition. I won't necessarily know that with the people who are coming next month, because you guys will just sit anywhere. So I could maybe I'm going to ask 1 or 2 people to tell me what they want to work on. And I'll put a Post-it note with your name, go sit there for now. or they can tell me what they want. Yeah, actually, I'll have a think about it. There are ways that I can play it, or it might just be once I see where people are sitting, I can say, right, stand up for a second, and I can just put yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll see where people are sitting, and then I'll just get you to stand up. I'll put the elemental on your seat. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to, and as some of you will know from the photo reading, because depending on the time of year, like the one I'm going to run in October, by the time we get to 7 o'clock on the Friday night, it's dark outside. So I often do the hula and I turn the lights off. I just leave the front light so I can see what I'm doing. And I've had people in the room where they're sat, and often people close their eyes. All I'm doing the hula around them. Even if you know hula, if you've got your eyes closed and I go, you have no idea what that symbol is. And I've had people go, oh my God, when you did the huna, I felt this intense heat. And lo and behold, I've just done the fire energy. I've had other people go, oh my God, it felt like a waterfall over me. And I'm above their head doing kind of, you know, there are various kind of signs you can do that invoke the water energy. And so even if people have never heard of huna, no idea what I'm doing, they will feel it. And so with the elementals, it will be just maybe interesting to put them down and just to see your experience as we go throughout the day. Good morning, Nathan. How are you? So yeah, so we're going to have some fun. So today, the experience I've had today with my doctor, with everything that had kind of gone on with my body and what I'd observed and what I know from what I went through last, you know, many years ago. It was just brilliantly good news, and it's also given me some ideas for what we're going to do with the, sorry, I'm just going to have a look at this multitasking now, because I saw a bubble pop up with a question, so I'm just going to answer that. I won't say your name, don't worry, you didn't put it in the thread, so clearly you don't want other people to know. So let me just open this for a second, because I just saw something about workshop. One sec. Oh, somebody famous is doing a IG live apparently. Righty, one second. Actually, that's a good question. Oh no, Dirty Den, Leslie Grantham has died, age 71. Breaking news, people. If you were ever an EastEnders fan, that's just popped up on my iPad when I fired it up as well. I used to really like Den and Angie. They were brilliant in EastEnders. Oh, Sunny. Oh, I'm going to have to break the news to you. I know you're not watching this. You'll be getting ready for work. Interesting. Anyway, sorry, let me tell you what the question is. You obviously can't see what I'm reading. Actually, 1 second. Let me use my super fancy water bottle. All right, question is, for those who cannot attend the workshop because they live abroad, will I be, no, definitely not doing a live stream. That's a really big endeavor. And let me just tell you, from my experience of doing a live stream last year, it costs 10 times more to live stream than it does to have somebody physically in the room. So I'm not live streaming. But your second thing, you know, you kind of said to send stuff remotely. I know even with or without the live stream, I know that's possible. So one option might be, and I'll have a little think about it actually, one option might be if you can't make the workshop but you want to be included in the healing that we're doing, maybe there's an option for you to pay a nominal fee and we'll include you in that. I don't know, let me have a think about it. Because as I've just said, it works across the airways, let's say. It doesn't matter where you are. It's all about, you know, kind of working with the higher self and sending the energy, the power of the intention behind it, etc., etc. So that's a possibility. But number one, I'm definitely not live streaming. From a logistical point of view, it's just a lot, and of course then I'd have to kind of remark it. Well, I don't know, have I got time? I don't think so. But hey, whatever, but I'm going to say no for now to the live streaming. However, there is a possibility, and actually I might just add that as an option. I'll add it to an option to the Eventbrite page. And if you did want to come along next month, it's www.huna, H-U-N-A, intro, I-N-T-R-O, as an introduction. So www.hunaintro.eventbrite.com. And what I might do for that page is I might just add an option if you wanted to be included in the remote healing and kind of that, then maybe you could do that, because then once you've booked, you know, send me your name. If there's anything in particular that you wanted to work on, I can have that too. But for you guys who've been on my HUNA teleseminars, you'll know it doesn't matter if I don't know anything about you. You know, I had no idea about the person with the back pain, the person with the bulimia, yada yada yada, and it still worked. But yeah, it'd be nice if you wanted to send something about what you want to work on, then, you know, I can include you in the mix for when we do that. And the way that I used to do it in days of old, when I was first getting started, I actually, it's going to sound a bit mad now, but I actually used to draw a little, like a, not quite a stick person, I gave them a bit of meat, but I used to draw a kind of a stick person on a bit of paper. I'd write the person's name on it, and they were like my proxy. So I would focus on them when I was doing the healing. Nowadays, I just will hold my clients in my intention about them. It's like I say in my head to kind of invoke that and get that running. There's also a conversation you have with the HUNA guides, what you call the Avaiku. And then once you've done that, it's a case of, you know, sending the energy. And because many of you are connected to me on Facebook, we could go another one further. You know, I'll maybe kind of put a Facebook picture onto a sheet, and so just have a quick flick through those before we get started to kind of, you know, have a fun way to do the energetic connection. So no to live streaming and joining that way remotely, but the idea that could come from that is, you know, you could just book to be included in the energy healing work. So that's that. So if you have any further questions or queries, drop them into the thread. You can do that now. I'll give you a minute or so, because I think there's a little bit of a time delay in terms of what I say and what you can hear. You can drop them in the thread, of course, if you're watching this as the replay. What I'm also doing with this month, it's been kind of fun just to do it, is I'm doing just like things I love about HUNA, and also putting some of those kind of client testimonials and quotes and case studies and success stories together, because I'm doing them so I can use them for the workshop. However, you know, social media is a nice place to share them as well, so, you know, keep a lookout for those. Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me. Wishing you all a fabulous day, week, month, year and life ahead. And hooray, and here is to HUNA. Oh, hang on, is that Sunny? Yeah. Oh, I don't know if she's on my live. I don't. Sorry, just gonna have a quick look just as that flashed up on my screen, just to see if there's something I need to respond to on this, because she'll be at work or on her way to work, so she might be able to watch the live, but she might be having a sneaky listen. But yeah, so it's good stuff. So I'm very, very excited to see kind of what we're going to be able to do next month at the HUNA intro workshop. And people that came last time, every single person bar one, and it's not saying they didn't have a great time, but every single person bar one said, I feel like I was called to be here. And one of the funny things about HUNA, there's a little mantra and a little saying that for the, you know, for those who are meant to find HUNA, it will call them. And several people also said it felt like they've come home in terms of the philosophies of it, and the principles of it, and how it fits with what they're already doing and things that they've been doing naturally and haven't even known why. So the HUNA is very interesting in that respect, and there are so many correspondences and resonances with a lot of the other healing modalities. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. HUNA discipline to complete my resume, and HUNA prayer. So Nathan, what I will do, if you wanted to, I'll have a little think about it today. What I'll do is I'll maybe add an option to the Eventbrite page. So if you wanted to kind of book to be included in the healing slots that we do, I'll put that into, I'll set that up on the Eventbrite page. I will put the link into the thread of this video, and then you can, you know, maybe book a healing slot, and we can, and when I'm kind of in the vibe of doing the healing energy with everyone in the room, we'll include you in that healing circle as well. So I think that could be a cool way to do it. It'll be like a audio-less teleseminar, but nonetheless, the energy of this really, really travels. So thank you for joining me. Wishing you all a fabulous day. Here's to beautiful blood pressure all around, and I'll catch you all later. Bye bye.